From the cattle that grazes fields to the rice paddies that feed millions and the fertilizer that boosts crop yields, all these activities emit greenhouse gases. In other parts of the world, agriculture is responsible for up to a quarter of total emissions. But here in Ghana, there is silence on the numbers. Methane from cattle digestion, nitrous oxide from fertilizer, and carbon dioxide from land clearing, these gases trap heat in the atmosphere. Yet, Ghana has no national data tracking how much comes from the agriculture sector.
And so you are welcome to another exciting episode of The Food Chain here on the JoyNews channel. Today, I am bringing you to the Multicultural Technology Park here at the Crops Research Institute under the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Today, we are focusing on some innovative technologies being developed by the scientists here in the reduction of greenhouse emissions on our farms. So come along and join us. My name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku. Stay with us. So we are currently in the Multicultural Technology Park under the Agroecology and Circular Economy for the reduction of emissions and also sustainable practices on our farms. And I am with the man behind, or the brain behind this technology park, ensuring that emissions on our farms are reduced, practices that are adopted by farmers that can actually impact or bring about climate change are reduced. And I'm joined by Dr. Kweku Onwona, Professor for Asante, and he is the brain behind this technology park. Doc, you are welcome to the Food Chain.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so Doc, we want to know, just give us an idea as to why this project is crucial to agricultural systems.
So, the input-centric agriculture has been a worry. Russia-Ukraine war also brought another evidence that indeed we need to think about more sustainable, self-resilient production system that is not so much dependent on external input. Now, Ghana government also spends a lot of taxpayers' money on inputs, fertilizers, pesticide, all with the aim of increasing agricultural productivity. And all these, inputs do not really help the food systems. What we see is that people buy food outside, and if you want to give them salad, they say, I want to reject the salad. Why? Because they are afraid of the food safety, the chemical load in these vegetables and food they are consuming. This is when people are eating, they are so worried and skeptical about the safety of the food we are consuming. It is not only about food safety, but it's about biodiversity. Even the pesticide that bring the pollen grains from one plant to another to get the production cycle ongoing are all being destroyed by the pesticide we apply. And so we come to a point where we realize that the inputs we are using within the agriculture sector is not helping anybody. It's not helping the environment. It's not helping our health. And therefore, the need for a better production system that can serve the need of biodiversity, that can serve the land, soil health needs, that can serve our health concerns, and also promote productivity. And in all these, we are expecting to reduce agriculture-associated emissions. Now, our olden, it's become a cultural thing that we grow up in an environment where slash and burn is part of the cultural practice. So people burn everywhere. Even apart from farm preparing land for production, even at the household level, people are burning biomasses, they are burning plastics, they are burning everything that we burn. And it is polluting the atmosphere. Black carbon, when you burn biomasses, is produced, and black carbon is about 3,000 times in warming potential compared to carbon dioxide, which everybody is crying about. So this project is drawing attention to other super pollutants, which stakeholders should also consider in policy and in practice and in farming activities. So with that, we want to find better production practices that can yield, provide the right yield or the potential yield as the genetic makeup of the plant is or crop species is. And then apart from providing the yield, it's also less emitting in terms of agricultural GHG gases. So this technology park has been established to ensure that we can demonstrate sustainability or sustainable production practices, intercropping systems, livestock integration, crop integration with livestock, legume, cereal integration systems, biomass production systems, so that we can actually reduce agriculture associated emissions and also promote sustainable agriculture.
Thank you very much, Doc, for speaking with us. And so that is Dr. Kweku Onwuna Shasufo Asante, and he is the brain behind this multicultural technology project. As he rightly mentioned, that it's not just about the farmers planting on their fields and producing. They are ensuring that they reduce emissions that come from our fields. In fact, we do not have a data on that as well. And so from this project, we'll be able to know in terms of the emissions, the greenhouse emissions that are being given out by our farmers. And so, Doc, thank you very much for joining me.
You're welcome.
We continue to interact with a lot more of the scientists here on the multicultural technology park here at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research and the Crops and Research Institute, this place in Fumesa, and also to understand. In fact, we have a lot more of these technologies, these sustainable practices, climate smart technologies that can be adopted by the farmers in improving their productivity, agricultural productivity, and ensure that whilst they farm and give us the food that we need to eat, they ensure that they protect or safeguard our environments from the impacts of climate change. So continue to stay with us here on the food chain.
Bismarck Norte is the director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana.
My checks indicate that about 11% of greenhouse emissions comes from agricultural production. Someone might say it's quite insignificant if you compare it to what industry is doing and stuff like that. But I think that it's not just about the emissions that is destroying the environment. It's also about this impact on the sustainability of our own production system. And that's where we need to take that quite seriously. To be honest with you, there are some bit of practices that our farmers do that also contribute to these greenhouse emissions. For instance, the burning by farmers. When before a farmer goes into production, he clears the land and they have to burn the whole thing. And I think that's a practice that we encourage them to stop. For also things like people who use excessive pesticides and like agrochemicals, the regulation on it and the instructions on the people don't abide by those things, so they overuse them, and that also has an effect on the environment. And the fact that there are a lot of crops that try to sequestrate carbon, that we need to increase their production. So those are things that we need to imbibe that knowledge into the farmers. And that is why for us, moving or transitioning towards agroecology practices is one of the key ways to achieve that. For instance, if you look at a practice like no-till or minimum tillage, where you don't disturb the structure of the soil when you come to plant, you just work on the topsoil and then you plant, so that the microorganisms in the soil will not be affected and they can still help to protect and encourage growth. But you realize that when we are having production cycles that encourages massive mechanization, that tends to plow into the structure of the soil. Then there's a problem. So, in terms of the other things that farmers do, for us, I spoke about the pesticide application and things like that. How do we ensure that we work with farmers to either minimize or use the optimum application of agrochemicals? But even most importantly, what we really want to preach is the adoption of the organic or biological chemicals, because those ones tend to help the soil and conserve the nutrients in the soil. So they are practices that we can do as farmers to at least reduce the emissions. And not only that, that also have a way of also benefit to the farmer, because one, you spend less; two, you are protecting your environment for future use; three, you are producing nutritious foods. Today, if you read everywhere, the world is still organic, and people are craving and available to buy organic products at premium prices. So why do we want to go into practices that you spend more but you're not getting premium price? So there is the appetite is there for us to even cash in on people's appetite for organic, and transitioning to agroecology, practicing sustainable farming is one sure way to get there. So we are using this opportunity to get more farmers to be in tune with that process. And as I said in my speech, our expectation is that we want to move farmers where at least 80% of our farmers are able to at least integrate some principles of agroecology in their farming system. So if you want to even apply synthetic chemicals, at least do not burn, do no tillage, and just practice some of those things. So that will help us to produce a more nutritious and sustainable food production in our country.
Experts warn that the lack of data is a blind spot in Ghana's climate action. Without it, the country risks underestimating agriculture's role in climate change and missing out on solutions such as improved livestock feeding, better rice cultivation methods, and alternatives to fertilizer overuse. Scientists at the Multicultural Park have imported equipment to assist with data analysis. Kwame Onwana Simpe is an electronics and communications engineer.
So we have this agricultural GAG and air quality monitoring system. It has over 10 specialized gases whose sensitivity is also good both for ambient and targeted gases. So we can have this for the entire atmosphere here to access the air quality within maybe the crops research or any other institution of choice depending on their request. So with the 10, we have nitrous oxide, we have carbon dioxide, we have SO2, we have ozone, tropospheric ozone, we have humidity. So it goes on. Later you can take a look at the sheet. Then the principle of operation. When you turn this device on, it has this mini chamber that kind of sucks the air within the atmosphere. Or if you are using it for a targeted purpose, after maybe applying a fertilizer, leaving it for 2 days, you want to check the emissions that it produces. This chemical fertilizers, I mean. So you get an additional tube to concentrate the gas for a period of time. At least minimum should be 24 hours after the without disturbance. Then you can now come and plug this into the tube you have placed on the area where you have deposited the chemical fertilizer. Then this would suck the air within that confined area. Then within 5 minutes, you see the concentration of the various gases within that area. If the concentration is beyond a certain threshold, then the instrument, we have air quality standards. The instrument has settings where you can configure it to give an alarm when it is beyond the air quality standard globally. Okay. And this is just a holder for the chamber. You can mount it on a pole and can also mount it within with a wooden structure or on top of a building, and it will be well secured. Okay. Then this is a black carbon device. After the slash and burn, you place. We can place this on a pole, looking at the direction of the wind. Then place it at the downstream where the wind blows towards. Then during the burning process, because of the fumes from the burning, it is directed by the wind, and this device captures the fumes that gets to its location within the atmosphere. Then with filters, it prints the pollution content on the filters and also give a digital reading on the device for you to take a look, and the information can also be extracted. So you connect this to your PC with the software, you'll be able to get the data that has been gathered over the period of the burning.
But somebody would want to know the black carbon and then also the carbon dioxide. What is the difference between the two?
Okay. Black carbon deals much with fumes. Carbon dioxide, basically, the air we breathe out is mostly made of carbon dioxide. And the fumes, what we say black carbon, has much effect and warming potential in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide, even though generally people focus on carbon dioxide, but black carbon has much greater consequences than CO2, which is carbon dioxide. Yes. This for the methane, then CO2 and water, that's humidity as well. So this is used basically in rice field, where the focus is for methane, CO2, because these are the common, because of the traditional farmer practices. We have a site where we are demonstrating how they are farming and designing mitigation strategy that they can implement to mitigate against the production of more methane. So this is also a very sensitive instrument that makes it powerful globally. Even aside fields, there are similar instruments that is used for ambient measurement. Yes, but because of its sensitivity level and highly recommended globally for such gases, that's why we decided to go in for this instrument. This is also good, but this has more strength with ambient focus, even though you can target it to certain areas, but the main focus goes for ambient, and this goes for targeted gases where you have designed chambers. You plug in the tubes. It has an inlet and outlet. The inlet goes into the chamber, then the outlet also goes to a side of the chamber to keep a balance within the chamber. So the air within the chamber is sucked into the instrument, then the content is analyzed, then the output comes to its display back here. You can take a look at the display back here. You see that.
Is there a reason why this is just for the maize and not other plant farms?
This one is for rice in particular. Okay. Yes, and this is basically for maize slash and burn. So because we want to advise farmers to find alternative means where instead of burning, they can convert this biomass into usable components, even in the farm, fertilizer, plowing it back, or using it as mulch or manure, or briquettes, converting the waste, burning it, then converting it to usable products. Women can buy it for their cooking purpose, and that emits, the emission from that is also very low and will be beneficial to the entire atmosphere, the air quality that we have. Especially women in the kitchen, they suffer most from this kind of pollution. So if we are able to convert this biomass into usable product with low emission, then the health risk that they are prone to in the kitchen could be curtailed.
So we're also joined by Dr. Eric Owusu-Dankwa to really appreciate what are some of the technologies and the sustainable practices or climate smart practices they are introducing farmers to ensure that it reduces emissions of greenhouse gases on the farms. Doc, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Doc, just help us understand what are the technologies or what are some of the sustainable farming practices that we are having on this technology pack.
Thank you very much. So as we've made it clear, this is a young pack and we display technologies. But before we display, we have to do a research part and be able to say this is the best. So what you see here is an ongoing research. So you can see maize and legume integration. So the legumes are soya beans. We also had groundnuts, and then we also have cowpea. So what we have done is to put the cowpea and the soya beans at different planting densities, all within the same population of maize. And why are we doing this? In maize production, you need N, or you need fertilizer application. By introducing legumes, you are able to take advantage of N credits, which is from natural source from the legumes. And that helps you to reduce the fertilizer or the chemical component you input into the soil. And don't forget, the more N you apply, the more nitrous oxide you introduce into the system. So what you see here is low input system. Your cameras, if they capture it, the yields might be low. But the interest here is to look at GAG emissions, especially nitrous oxide, vis-a-vis fertilizer application. So some of them we haven't applied fertilizers, so of course the yields will be low. But when you look at want to look at sustainability for long term, you are looking at applying at a minimum rate or no application, and then you sustain yourself for a long time. That is why we have introduced legumes. So we want to monitor the GAG, especially nitrous oxide, and be able to say, if you don't apply, if you applied half or let's say quarter of the recommended fertilizers, these are the GAG emissions. Versus if you apply for a full rate, this is the emissions. So if a farmer is applying at a minimal rate or even not applying versus low yield, how much compensation should we give? Because the person is reducing nitrous oxide into the system. And of course, that is positive to the environment. So we have to do what we call payment for environmental services. But on what basis can we do this? We have to experiment and be able to come out with some standards that can be used to say that this is how much you conserve, this is how much you produce based on the fertilizers you apply in the system. So that is all you can see around. Okay. We have some too that we have integrated 3 species. We are going to monitor the carbon sequestration aspect, look at other GAGs. So basically this is a technology park where we are researching and be able to give to the public the best practices. Of course, we have brought in some best practices, but in terms of GAG, are they the best? You know, these are the aspects we are trying to.
Now, in fact, the farmer, as you said, the fertilizer application, farmers would want to grow now and then within the shortest possible time they get their produce. And with this technology coming on board, and I know that research is ongoing, what is the assurance that the farmer will be able to grow now and then within the shortest possible time they can get their product while protecting the environment? Just oppose this to that of the fertilizer application for me.
Yeah, so we are looking at, you apply the fertilizer, but you don't jeopardize the environment. So how do you do it? You take credit from legumes, then maybe you apply a minimal rate of chemical fertilizer. But what rate is minimal in terms of production into the environment? That is what we don't know. And we need experiment to show that. And that is exactly what we are doing. So once we're able to do that, we can say that, oh, the recommended fertilizer application, if you do half or even quarter, you are able to conserve GAG into the environment. So do that. Or even if you don't apply, you are able to get some appreciable yields with the legumes. So don't apply. So these are what we are doing now, and we are hoping by a year or two we'll be able to get some concrete results and be able to give some recommendations to the public.
Okay, now let's look at the negative impact of synthetic fertilizers on our farms. How bad does this affect the crop itself and even in the release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere?
Yeah, with the increasing population, we cannot ban fertilizer application. As the population increases, the soils are getting worse, we have to. But we have to do it in a way that we don't jeopardize the environment. We don't affect the environment. The footprint is minimal. And that is why we are doing integration of legumes and especially the cereals. The cereals need more N, like maize. So once you integrate, you are able to get some natural source of N, which doesn't emit nitrous oxide into the environment. But with the application of the chemical fertilizer, once you use that alone, it's not even good for the environment or the soil itself to use only the synthetic fertilizers. They help increase the soil acidity, and that is not good for crop production. So in this case, what you do is to sort of balance. Look at what rate is minimal for the environment and also minimal and also good for crop production. So we are looking at a balance, and to look for a balance is not easy. So you have to do a lot of experiments and monitor the GAGs and others to be able to come out with a useful conclusion.
This pack is actually a collaboration between CSIR with peasant farmers involved. So it's a whole consortium that came up to put up this pack. And we supported the idea because it aligns with our push for agroecology systems. Now, with our experience with training farmers, building capacities in agriculture, what you realize is that farmers are people who want to see, want to experience before they start adopting. So if you are training farmers and most of the trainings are theoretical, it becomes difficult. So we've always been advocating for a need to have these centers across the country, so that they are very close out to the farmers. They can move there and see in reality what you are talking about. So this is one of the steps that PFAG with CSR have taken, and it's something that we encourage as many farmers as possible. If they have the chance, you come to the center and come and learn, come and see practically what is going on. There are others too across the country you can learn, and there are innovative steps, innovative approaches, the alternate wetting and drying for rice production, combination, the integrated farming, pest management, even converting agricultural waste into input. They are all there that I think the farmers can easily come and learn. So I employ farmers to do that, and I employ the government to also use this as an entry point to increase and expand investment in agroecology and sustainable farming. We have to find a way to situate that into our agricultural systems to ensure that we are able to produce in a more sustainable way that will benefit us as a country.
Our farms continue to be at the mercy of climate change. Farmers are crying of the low yields on their farms. In fact, the weather patterns are heavily affecting them. With these innovative ideas from the scientists here at the Crops Research Institute for the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, hopefully they will be able to protect our environment while they ensure that we have enough on our tables. And so this has been our coverage of the food chain. Join us same time next week for another exciting episode. My name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.